You know what the saddest thing I've ever witnessed is? It's watching someone destroy themselves. Not because the world broke them, not because life was too hard, not because they didn't have enough talent or opportunity, but because they believed a lie that whispered in their own head every single morning, a lie that sounded exactly like their own voice. I'm talking about the person who had the business idea that could have changed their life but never started because their mind said, "You're not smart enough." The athlete who could have gone pro but quit before they even tried because something inside them whispered, "You don't have what it takes." The artist, the writer, the dreamer who died with their masterpiece still locked inside them because every time they sat down to create, that voice said, "Who are you to think you're special?" And here's what kills me. That voice was lying the entire time. Let me ask you something real quick, and I want you to be honest with yourself. How many times have you been your own worst enemy? How many times have you stopped yourself before you even started? How many opportunities did you let slip through your fingers? Not because you couldn't do it, but because you convinced yourself you couldn't. That voice in your head, you trust it, don't you? You think it's trying to protect you. You think it's being realistic. You think it knows what's best for you. But what if I told you that voice is the biggest liar you'll ever meet in your entire life? See, here's what nobody tells you when you're growing up. Your mind, this incredible, powerful, beautiful thing sitting inside your skull, it wasn't designed to make you successful. It wasn't built to help you chase your dreams. It wasn't programmed to push you toward greatness. No, your mind has one job and one job only: keep you alive, keep you safe, keep you comfortable. And to do that, it will lie to you every single day of your life. Think about it. Every time you've wanted to do something that scared you, what happened? Your mind immediately started throwing up red flags, didn't it? It started painting worst case scenarios. It started reminding you of every time you failed before. It started comparing you to everyone else who's better than you. It started giving you a million reasons why you should just stay where you are, stay small, stay safe, stay comfortable. And most people listen. Most people hear that voice and they think it's wisdom. They think it's their intuition trying to protect them. So they stay in jobs they hate because their mind says at least it's stable. They stay in relationships that drain them because their mind says at least you're not alone. They never pursue their real passions because their mind says that's not realistic. They never take the risk because their mind says, what if you fail? And years go by, decades go by, and one day they wake up and realize they spent their entire life in a prison. But here's the twist. The prison wasn't real. The bars were made of thoughts. The walls were made of fear. The chains were made of their own mental programming. They were free the whole time. They just didn't know it. I want you to understand something that's going to change everything for you. Your thoughts, they're not facts. They're just noise. They're just your brain doing its job, trying to keep you safe, trying to keep you from getting hurt. But safe doesn't mean successful. Safe doesn't mean fulfilled. Safe doesn't mean alive. There's a guy named David Goggins, and if you don't know his story, you need to hear this. This man was nobody. I mean that literally. He was nobody. He was overweight, working a dead-end job as an exterminator, spraying for cockroaches, going nowhere fast. He was broke. He was depressed. He hated looking at himself in the mirror. And every single day, his mind told him the same thing. This is who you are. This is all you'll ever be. You're not special. You're not capable of more. And for years, he believed it. For years, he lived in that mental prison. He let his mind dictate his entire reality. But then something happened. Something clicked. He was watching TV one night and saw a documentary about Navy SEAL training. And for the first time in his life, something inside him said, I could do that. But immediately, like always, his mind started screaming at him. Are you crazy? You're 300 pounds. You're not an athlete. You'll fail. You'll look stupid. Don't even try. But this one time, he didn't listen. He started running, and his mind fought him every single step. It told him to quit. It told him it hurt too much. It told him he was embarrassing himself. But he kept running. He started waking up at 4 a.m. to train. His mind said, sleep in, you're tired. He ignored it. He started doing things that terrified him. His mind said, you're going to fail. He did them anyway. Every single day was a war between who he was and who he wanted to become. Every single day, his mind was his enemy. But he learned something that most people never figure out in their entire lives. Your mind is only your enemy if you let it be. The moment you realize that you are not your thoughts, the moment you understand that you have the power to choose which thoughts to believe and which ones to ignore, everything changes. David Goggins went on to become one of the toughest human beings on the planet. Navy SEAL, Army Ranger, ultramarathon runner. He's run over 60 ultramarathons. He once ran 205 miles in 39 hours. He holds the world record for the most pull-ups in 24 hours, 4,030 pull-ups. This is the same guy who was spraying cockroaches and hating his life just a few years earlier. So what changed? His circumstances? No. His genetics? No. His mind? No. His mind still tells him to quit every single day. What changed is he learned to control it instead of letting it control him. And that's what you need to understand. You will never get rid of negative thoughts. You will never silence that voice completely. Fear will always be there. Doubt will always show up. Insecurity will always try to creep in. But you don't need to get rid of them. You just need to stop giving them power. You need to stop treating every thought like it's the truth. Most people think the goal is to have positive thoughts all the time. They think successful people just walk around feeling confident and motivated 24/7. That's not how it works. Successful people have the same doubts and fears as everyone else. The difference is they act anyway. They feel the fear and do it anyway. They hear the voice saying you can't, and they prove it wrong. See, your mind operates on patterns. It's been programmed by everything you've experienced, everything you've been told, everything you've seen. If you grew up being told you're not good enough, your mind learned that pattern. If you failed before, your mind remembers that pattern. If you've been hurt, your mind wants to protect you from that pattern repeating. So it creates these automatic responses, these default settings that keep you playing small. But here's the beautiful part. Patterns can be reprogrammed. Your mind is not set in stone. It's not permanent. It's not fixed. It's actually incredibly adaptable. It's constantly changing based on what you expose it to, based on what you practice, based on what you reinforce. Every single day, you have the opportunity to reprogram your mind. Every single day, you get to choose which patterns you're going to strengthen and which ones you're going to weaken. Think about it like this. If you've spent the last 10 years avoiding discomfort, what has your mind learned? It's learned that discomfort equals danger. So now every time something uncomfortable comes up, your mind immediately triggers that fear response. It's trying to protect you. But in doing so, it's keeping you weak. It's keeping you limited. It's keeping you from growing. But what happens if you start doing uncomfortable things on purpose? What happens if you start seeking out difficulty instead of avoiding it? What happens if you train your mind to associate discomfort with growth instead of danger? Everything changes. Your mind starts to rewire itself. Those fear responses start to quiet down. That voice that used to scream, run away, starts to whisper, maybe we can handle this. This is what people don't understand about mental toughness. They think some people are just born tough. They think some people just naturally have willpower and discipline. That's not true. Mental toughness is a skill. It's something you develop. It's something you practice. And just like any skill, the more you practice it, the stronger it gets. You want to know the secret to taking control of your mind? It's simple, but it's not easy. The secret is exposure. You have to expose yourself to the very things your mind wants you to avoid. You have to do hard things. You have to face your fears. You have to push past your limits. Not once, not twice, but every single day. Your mind gets stronger by being challenged. Think about your body for a second. If you want to build muscle, you have to lift weights. You have to break down the muscle fibers so they can rebuild stronger. It's uncomfortable. It hurts, but that's how you grow. Your mind works the exact same way. If you want a strong mind, you have to challenge it. You have to put it in difficult situations. You have to make it uncomfortable. This is why so many people stay weak mentally. They avoid everything that challenges them. They stay in their comfort zone their entire lives. They surround themselves with easy job, easy relationships, easy routines, easy everything. And then they wonder why they feel stuck. They wonder why they never grow. They wonder why life feels so empty and unfulfilling. It's because you cannot grow in comfort. Growth requires resistance. Progress requires pressure. Strength requires struggle. If you're not being challenged, you're not changing. If you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing. If everything in your life is easy, you're not living, you're just existing. And let me tell you something else. Your mind knows this. Deep down, beneath all the fear and all the excuses, your mind knows you're capable of more. That's why you feel that restlessness. That's why you feel that dissatisfaction. That's why even when everything is fine, something inside you knows it's not enough. That feeling isn't depression. It's your potential screaming at you to stop wasting it. You see, your mind will always default to the path of least resistance. It's lazy by design. It wants to conserve energy. It wants to stay safe. It wants to avoid pain. So it will always try to convince you to take the easy route. Sleep in instead of waking up early. Skip the workout instead of pushing through. Watch TV instead of working on your goals. Stay quiet instead of speaking up. Play it safe instead of taking the risk. And every time you listen to that voice, every time you choose comfort over growth, every time you take the easy path, you're training your mind that quitting is acceptable. You're reinforcing the pattern that says, when things get hard, we give up. You're making yourself weaker. You're programming yourself for mediocrity. But the opposite is also true. Every time you do the hard thing, every time you push through when you want to quit, every time you choose growth over comfort, you're training your mind to be strong. You're showing it that you can handle more than you thought. You're reprogramming those patterns. You're building mental muscle. This is why discipline is so important. Discipline is not about being perfect. It's not about never making mistakes. It's not about being some robot who never feels tired or unmotivated. Discipline is about doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. Especially when you don't feel like it. That's when it matters most. Because here's what happens when you start being disciplined. Your mind starts to trust you. It starts to realize that when you say you're going to do something, you actually do it. It stops fighting you so much because it knows resistance is futile. The more consistent you are, the less your mind will try to sabotage you. The voice gets quieter. The fear gets smaller. The excuses lose their power. But you have to be consistent. You can't just do it once and expect everything to change. You can't work hard for a week and then go back to your old patterns. Your mind needs repetition. It needs consistency. It needs proof that this is who you are now. Think about someone who's trying to quit smoking. The first few days are hell, right? Their mind is screaming at them. Every cell in their body is craving that cigarette. But if they push through, if they stay consistent, if they refuse to give in, something amazing happens. After a few weeks, it gets easier. After a few months, they barely think about it anymore. Their mind has adapted. It's created new patterns. What once felt impossible now feels normal. The same thing happens with any behavior you want to change. The beginning is always the hardest because you're fighting against years of programming. You're going against the grain. You're doing something your mind perceives as a threat. But if you stay consistent, if you keep showing up, if you refuse to quit, your mind will eventually get on board. It will adapt. It will change. And what once felt like a constant battle will start to feel natural. But here's the catch. You can never stop training your mind. The moment you get comfortable, the moment you stop challenging yourself, the moment you stop doing hard things, your mind starts to regress. Those old patterns start to creep back in. That voice starts getting louder again. You start sliding back toward weakness. This is why people who achieve success often struggle to maintain it. They work incredibly hard to get to the top, but once they're there, they relax. They stop doing the things that made them successful in the first place. They get comfortable. And slowly but surely, they lose what they worked so hard to gain. Your mind is like a muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it. If you want to stay mentally strong, you have to keep challenging yourself. You have to keep pushing your limits. You have to keep doing hard things, not just for a month, not just for a year, for the rest of your life. I know that sounds exhausting. I know that sounds like a lot of work. But let me ask you this. What's the alternative? Living a mediocre life? Never reaching your potential? Spending your entire existence wondering, what if? Is that really easier? Is that really less exhausting than just doing the work? The truth is, staying the same is actually harder than changing. Living with regret is actually more painful than facing your fears. Being disappointed in yourself every single day is actually more exhausting than just pushing through the discomfort and becoming who you're meant to be. You have a choice right now. You can keep listening to that voice that tells you to play it safe. You can keep living in your comfort zone. You can keep making excuses for why you're not where you want to be. Or you can decide that today is the day everything changes. Today is the day you stop being your own worst enemy and start becoming your own greatest ally. Your mind is going to resist this. It's going to throw every excuse at you. It's going to remind you of every time you failed before. It's going to tell you that you're not capable of change. It's going to make you feel tired, unmotivated, and doubtful. That's normal. That's expected. That's what it does. But now you know the truth. That voice is a liar. Those thoughts are not facts. That fear is not reality. And you are so much more powerful than you've been led to believe. So here's where the real work begins. Because understanding the problem is one thing. Actually doing something about it is something else entirely. You can read every self-help book ever written. You can watch every motivational video on YouTube. You can understand every psychological principle about how your mind works. But if you don't put in the work, if you don't actually take action, all that knowledge is completely worthless. This is where most people fall off. They get inspired. They feel motivated. They understand what needs to change. And then they wait. They wait for the perfect moment. They wait until they feel ready. They wait until the circumstances are just right. And while they're waiting, nothing changes. Months go by, years go by, and they're still sitting there, still waiting, still making excuses, still letting their mind run the show. Let me be brutally honest with you. You will never feel ready. You will never feel motivated every single day. You will never wake up one morning and suddenly have this surge of unstoppable willpower that carries you through everything. That's not how this works. Waiting for motivation is like waiting for the weather to be perfect before you start your journey. You'll be waiting forever. The people who actually change their lives, they don't wait. They start right now, today, this second. They start even when they're scared. They start even when they're tired. They start even when every fiber of their being is screaming at them to stay where they are, because they understand something crucial. Action creates momentum, not the other way around. You want to know what the first step is? It's not some complicated strategy. It's not some secret technique. The first step is catching yourself in the act. It's becoming aware of when your mind is lying to you. It's recognizing the moment when that voice starts making excuses, and instead of automatically believing it, you pause, you question it, you challenge it. Your mind says, I'm too tired to work out today. Stop. Is that actually true? Or are you just comfortable on the couch? Your mind says, I'll start my business next month when I have more money saved up. Stop. Is that a real reason? Or are you just scared of failing? Your mind says, I can't have that difficult conversation. Stop. Can't or won't. See, most of your limitations are imaginary. Most of your fears are projections. Most of your excuses are just comfort in disguise. And the moment you start questioning these thoughts instead of accepting them as reality, you take back power. You create a gap between the thought and your response to it. And in that gap lives your freedom. But questioning isn't enough. You have to follow through. You have to take action. And here's what action looks like in real life. It's not glamorous. It's not Instagram worthy. It's not going to get you likes and followers. Action is waking up at 5 a.m. when your bed is warm and your body is screaming at you to hit snooze. It's doing the work when you'd rather be doing literally anything else. It's showing up day after day after day. Even when you don't see results yet, think about what it actually takes to rewire your brain. You're fighting against years, maybe decades of conditioning. You're going against patterns that have been carved deep into your neural pathways. That doesn't change overnight. It doesn't change because you read one book or watched one video or had one moment of clarity. It changes through repetition, through consistency, through relentless, unglamorous, day in and day out effort. I'm talking about the guy who's trying to build a business while working a full-time job. He gets home at 6 p.m., exhausted from a long day. His mind is telling him to relax, to watch TV, to take it easy. But instead, he sits down at his laptop. He works for 3 hours. Every single night, his friends are out having fun. His mind is telling him he's missing out. But he keeps working because he knows that nobody's coming to save him. Nobody's going to hand him success. If he wants it, he has to take it. I'm talking about the woman who's trying to lose weight and get healthy. She wakes up early to go to the gym before work. Her body is sore. Her mind is telling her to skip today, just this once, but she goes anyway. She shows up even when she doesn't feel like it. She chooses the salad when her mind is craving the burger. She goes to bed early when her mind wants to scroll on her phone for hours, day after day after day. Not because it's easy, not because she feels motivated, but because she made a decision about who she wants to be, and she refuses to negotiate with herself. This is the work. This is what separates the people who actually transform their lives from the people who just talk about it. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's not having perfect circumstances. It's the willingness to do what's uncomfortable, what's difficult, what's boring, what's painful, over and over and over again, until it becomes who you are. And let me tell you what happens when you start doing this consistently. Something shifts. At first, it's brutal. Every day feels like a war. Every task feels like climbing a mountain. Your mind is fighting you constantly. You want to quit. You doubt yourself. You wonder if it's even worth it. But you keep going. And then one day, you notice something. The voice is a little quieter. The resistance is a little less intense. The hard thing you've been doing is starting to feel normal. This is your brain adapting. This is those neural pathways changing. This is the reprogramming happening in real time. But it only happens if you keep showing up. It only happens if you refuse to quit. It only happens if you're willing to suffer through the discomfort long enough for your mind to accept this as the new normal. Now, here's a strategy that will accelerate this entire process. You need to deliberately seek out discomfort. Not just tolerate it when it shows up, but actively pursue it because your mind learns through experience. If you only face difficulty when you're forced to, your mind will never fully trust that you can handle it. But if you voluntarily put yourself in hard situations, if you choose discomfort on purpose, something powerful happens. Your mind starts to realize that discomfort isn't dangerous. It starts to understand that you can handle more than it thought. This is why people take cold showers. It's not because cold water has some magical property that makes you successful. It's because standing in freezing water when every cell in your body is screaming at you to get out teaches your mind that you can override your impulses. It teaches you that discomfort won't kill you. It teaches you that you're stronger than your initial reaction to things. This is why people do hard workouts, why they fast, why they wake up early, why they do things that suck. They're not punishing themselves. They're training themselves. They're building a tolerance for discomfort. They're proving to their mind that they're capable of more than they think. And once you start doing this, once you start seeking out challenges instead of avoiding them, everything changes. That big scary goal you had, it doesn't seem as scary anymore. That conversation you've been avoiding, you can handle it now. That risk you've been too afraid to take, you're ready because you've proven to yourself over and over again that you can do hard things. But here's what you need to understand. This process never ends. You don't reach some magical point where everything becomes easy and you never struggle again. That's not how life works. What happens is you get stronger. The things that used to break you don't break you anymore. The challenges that used to seem impossible become manageable. And then new challenges show up. Bigger challenges, harder challenges, and you face those too. This is what growth looks like. It's not linear. It's not comfortable. It's not pretty. It's messy and painful and frustrating. And there will be days where you want to give up. Days where you doubt everything. Days where you wonder why you even started this in the first place. And on those days, you have a choice. You can listen to that voice that says, this is too hard. Let's go back to how things were. Or you can push through one more day. Just one more day. That's all you need to focus on. Not the next year. Not the next month. Just today. Can you do what needs to be done today? Can you show up today? Can you push through the discomfort today? If yes, then do it. And then tomorrow, ask yourself the same question. And the day after that, and the day after that, before you know it, weeks have passed, months have passed, and you look back and realize you're not the same person you were when you started. Now let's talk about something most people ignore, the environment. Your mind is constantly absorbing information from your surroundings. Everything you see, everything you hear, everyone you interact with, it's all programming your brain. If you're surrounded by negativity, by people who complain all the time, by content that makes you feel inadequate or anxious or depressed, your mind is going to reflect that. You can try to fight it, but you're fighting an uphill battle. This is why you need to be ruthless about what you allow into your space. That friend who always talks about how hard life is and how nothing ever works out, limit your time with them. That social media feed that makes you feel like everyone else has their life together except you, delete it. That news channel that fills your mind with fear and outrage every single day, turn it off. I'm not saying hide from reality. I'm not saying live in some fantasy bubble where you pretend problems don't exist. I'm saying be strategic about what you consume, because your mind is like a sponge. Whatever you soak it in, that's what it becomes. If you soak it in negativity, doubt, and distraction, that's what you'll produce. If you soak it in growth, possibility, and focus, that's what you'll become. Fill your mind with content that makes you better. Read books by people who've done what you want to do. Listen to podcasts that challenge you to think differently. Surround yourself with people who are on the same path, who are also trying to level up, who understand what you're going through. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending everything is always great. This is about being intentional with your mental diet. And while we're talking about input, let's talk about something else that's critical. Learning to observe your emotions instead of being controlled by them. This is a skill that most people never develop, and it costs them everything. They feel angry, so they lash out. They feel anxious, so they avoid. They feel sad, so they spiral. They're completely at the mercy of whatever emotion happens to show up. But emotions are just signals. They're information. They're not commands that you have to obey. When you feel angry, you don't have to act on it. When you feel anxious, you don't have to avoid the situation. When you feel unmotivated, you don't have to skip the work. You can acknowledge the emotion, observe it, and then choose how to respond. This is what emotional control actually means. It doesn't mean you never feel negative emotions. It doesn't mean you're always calm and collected. It means you create space between feeling something and acting on it. It means you pause, you breathe, you ask yourself, what's really going on here? Is this emotion giving me useful information, or is it just my brain overreacting? Most of the time, it's overreacting. Your brain sees a difficult situation and hits the panic button. It floods your system with stress hormones. It makes you feel like you need to run away or fight or freeze. But once you understand that this is just a biological response, once you realize that the feeling will pass if you don't feed it, you gain power over it. Here's a practical example. You need to have a difficult conversation with someone. Maybe you need to set a boundary. Maybe you need to confront them about something. As the moment approaches, your mind starts spiraling. You feel anxious. Your heart starts racing. Your mind gives you 100 reasons why you should avoid this conversation. It tells you it's going to go badly. It tells you the other person will be upset. It tells you to just let it go. But instead of believing these thoughts, instead of letting the anxiety control you, you pause. You observe what's happening. You say to yourself, okay, I'm feeling anxious right now. That's normal. My brain thinks this situation is dangerous. But is it actually dangerous? No. It's just uncomfortable. And then you have the conversation anyway. You feel the anxiety, and you do it anyway. And you know what happens? The anxiety was lying. The conversation goes fine, and your mind learns that it was wrong. Next time, it'll be a little less intense. This is how you take back control. Not by fighting your emotions, not by pretending they don't exist, but by observing them, understanding them, and choosing your response instead of reacting automatically. Over time, you build this muscle, you get better at it, and situations that used to completely overwhelm you become manageable. But let me be clear about something. All of this requires awareness. You can't control what you're not aware of. If you're just operating on autopilot, if you're just reacting to everything without thinking, if you're just letting your mind run wild without ever checking in with yourself, you have no power. You're just a passenger in your own life. This is why you need to build in moments of reflection, not hours of meditation or complex mindfulness practices, just simple check-ins throughout your day. When you're about to make a decision, pause for 2 seconds and ask yourself, is this coming from my highest self or my weakest self? Is this moving me toward who I want to be or away from it? When you notice yourself procrastinating, pause and ask, what am I actually avoiding here? What am I afraid of? When you notice yourself getting defensive or reactive, pause and ask, why is this triggering me? What's really going on underneath this reaction? These simple questions create awareness, and awareness creates choice, and choice creates change. The truth is, most people go through life completely unconscious. They wake up, follow the same routines, think the same thoughts, make the same choices, and wonder why nothing changes. They're on autopilot. They're not actually living, they're just repeating patterns. And those patterns were probably set decades ago by circumstances they don't even remember. Breaking free from this requires vigilance. It requires you to constantly check yourself, to constantly question whether you're making conscious choices or just following your programming. It's not easy. It's actually exhausting at first. But over time, it becomes natural. You start catching yourself faster. You start making better choices automatically. The conscious effort becomes unconscious competence. And here's what happens when you combine all of this, when you're taking action despite fear, when you're deliberately seeking discomfort, when you're controlling your environment, when you're managing your emotions instead of being controlled by them, when you're operating with awareness instead of autopilot, you become unstoppable. Not in some superhero way where nothing bothers you and everything comes easy, but unstoppable in the sense that nothing can permanently stop you. You get knocked down, you get back up, you fail, you try again, you face obstacles, you find a way around them, you encounter fear, you feel it, and move forward anyway. You become the kind of person who simply refuses to quit, who refuses to be defeated, who refuses to accept anything less than becoming who they're capable of being. This is the shift. This is the transformation. This is what happens when you stop being your own worst enemy and start being your own greatest asset. Your mind doesn't change its nature. It's still going to try to keep you safe. It's still going to resist change. It's still going to throw doubts at you, but you change your relationship with it. You stop seeing it as the master and start seeing it as a tool a powerful tool that you can train, that you can sharpen, that you can use to build the life you actually want. But understand this, there's no finish line. There's no point where you've made it and you can just coast. The moment you stop working on yourself, the moment you stop challenging yourself, the moment you get comfortable, you start sliding backward. Your mind will try to pull you back to old patterns. Life will throw new challenges at you. And if you're not prepared, if you're not still putting in the work, you'll lose everything you've built. So this isn't a temporary thing. This isn't something you do for a few months until you achieve your goal and then you're done. This is a lifestyle. This is who you are now. You're someone who does hard things. You're someone who faces their fears. You're someone who takes control of their mind instead of letting it control them. You're someone who shows up every single day and does the work even when you don't feel like it. And yeah, some days you're going to fail. Some days you're going to fall back into old patterns. Some days you're going to let your mind win. That's okay. You're human. What matters is that you don't let one bad day become a bad week. You don't let one slip up become an excuse to give up. You acknowledge it, you learn from it, and you get back on track the next day. The people who succeed aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who fail and keep going anyway. They're the ones who understand that failure is just feedback, not a final verdict. They're the ones who know that every setback is an opportunity to prove to themselves that they can overcome anything. So right now, in this moment, you have a decision to make. Are you going to keep living the way you've been living? Are you going to keep letting your mind control you? Are you going to keep making excuses and playing small and wondering what if? Or are you going to start doing the work? Are you going to start taking control? Are you going to start becoming the person you know you're capable of being? Because here's the reality. Your life will either get better or it will get worse, but it won't stay the same. Time keeps moving. Opportunities keep passing by. Your potential keeps waiting. And every day you don't take action is a day you move further away from the life you actually want. Every day you let fear win is a day you reinforce the pattern that says you're not capable. But every day you push through, every day you do the hard thing, every day you prove to yourself that you're stronger than your excuses, you're building something real. You're building momentum. You're building confidence. You're building a version of yourself that's capable of anything. And that version of you, it's already inside you right now. Waiting for what? Waiting for you to stop being afraid. Waiting for you to stop making excuses. Waiting for you to finally understand that the only thing standing between where you are and where you want to be is the story you keep telling yourself about why you can't get there. Let me paint you a picture, not of who you were, not of who you are right now, but of who you become when you finally take control of your mind. When you finally stop negotiating with your fears. When you finally start living like someone who refuses to lose. Imagine waking up every single morning and not having to fight with yourself about whether you're going to do what needs to be done. Imagine your mind being on your side for once, working with you instead of against you. Imagine looking at a challenge and feeling excited instead of terrified because you absolutely know that you can handle it. You've proven it to yourself over and over again. Imagine the confidence that comes from knowing you're not going to quit. Not when it gets hard. Not when you're tired. Not when everyone else would give up. Because you've trained yourself to keep going. You've built that mental strength day by day, rep by rep, moment by moment. And now it's just who you are. You don't need motivation anymore because discipline has become your identity. Imagine having complete control over your reactions. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and instead of rage, you just let it go because you're not going to let someone else's mistake ruin your peace. Someone criticizes you, and instead of spiraling into self-doubt, you consider if there's truth in it and discard the rest because you know who you are and random opinions don't shake you anymore. Something triggers your anxiety, and instead of being paralyzed, you breathe through it and keep moving because you've done this 1,000 times before, and you know the feeling always passes. Imagine pursuing your actual dreams instead of the safe, practical path everyone told you to take. Starting that business, writing that book, creating that art, having that conversation, taking that risk, not because you're fearless, but because you've learned that fear is just a feeling, not a stop sign. And you've proven to yourself that you can feel afraid and do it anyway. Imagine your relationships transforming because you're no longer operating from a place of insecurity and need. You're not trying to get validation from others because you've learned to validate yourself. You're not afraid of being alone because you've become someone you actually enjoy being with. You're not clinging to toxic people because you'd rather be lonely than compromise who you're becoming. You show up as your authentic self, and the right people are naturally drawn to that energy. Imagine your health completely different because you finally stopped treating your body like a dumpster and your mind like a landfill. You're eating foods that fuel you. You're moving your body because it makes you feel alive. You're sleeping properly because you respect your recovery. You're not perfect, but you're consistent. And over months and years, you look in the mirror and barely recognize the person staring back at you because you've literally transformed into someone new. Imagine having real standards for yourself and actually living up to them. You say you're going to do something and you do it every single time. Your word means something again, first and foremost to yourself. You don't make promises you can't keep. You don't set goals you don't pursue. You don't talk about what you're going to do. You just do it and let the results speak. Imagine financial freedom, not because you won the lottery or got lucky, but because you built something, because you stayed disciplined with your money, because you invested in yourself and your skills, because you stopped making excuses about why you couldn't earn more and started figuring out how you could, because you outworked everyone else who had the same opportunities but didn't have your mental strength. This isn't fantasy. This isn't some unrealistic dream. This is what's available to you right now, today, this moment. Every single thing I just described is possible for you if you're willing to do the work, if you're willing to train your mind, if you're willing to become the kind of person who wins. But here's what you need to understand. That version of you isn't going to appear magically. It's not going to show up because you wished for it or thought about it or wanted it really badly. That version of you is built day by day, choice by choice, action by action. It's built in those moments when you don't want to get up, but you do anyway. When you don't want to keep going, but you push through. When you want to quit, but you refuse. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you're building that person. Every time you do the hard thing, when the easy thing is right there, you're building that person. Every time you feel fear and move forward anyway, you're building that person. You're not waiting for that version of you to appear. You're actively creating it with every decision you make. And I want you to really think about this. 5 years from now, you're going to be somewhere. The question is, where? If you keep doing what you're doing right now, if you keep letting your mind control you, if you keep making the same choices, where will you be? Will you be proud of where you ended up? Will you be satisfied with how you spent these years? Or will you be full of regret, wishing you had started when you had the chance? Because here's the brutal truth that nobody wants to hear. Time is going to pass, whether you do the work or not. 5 years from now is coming. The only question is whether you'll arrive there as someone who transformed their life or someone who's still making the same excuses they're making today. Think about the people you admire, the ones who've accomplished incredible things, the ones who seem to have their life together, the ones who inspire you. Do you think they just got lucky? Do you think they just happened to be born with some special gift that you don't have? No. They made a decision. They decided who they wanted to become, and they refused to negotiate with themselves about it. They showed up every single day and did the work. They trained their mind. They built discipline. They pushed through when it was hard. And now they're living the life you wish you had. But you can have it too. Not their exact life, your version of success, your dreams, your potential. It's all sitting there waiting for you to claim it. But you have to choose it. You have to commit to it. You have to stop dabbling and start dominating. You have to stop trying and start doing. You have to stop wishing and start working. And I know what your mind is telling you right now. It's giving you reasons why this won't work for you. It's reminding you of all the times you've tried before and failed. It's telling you that you're too old, too young, too busy, too broke, too far behind. It's telling you that other people can do this, but not you. It's protecting you from disappointment by convincing you not to try. But that voice is the exact thing that's been holding you back your entire life. That voice is why you're not where you want to be. That voice is why you're reading this right now, searching for answers, looking for something to change. And until you stop listening to that voice, nothing will change. You'll be in the same place next year, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, still dreaming, still wishing, still wondering, what if? Is that really what you want? Is that really how you want to spend your one shot at this life? Playing it safe, staying comfortable, letting fear make your decisions, never finding out what you're actually capable of, never knowing if you could have been something more? Or do you want to know? Do you want to find out what happens when you actually commit, when you actually go all in, when you stop holding back and start unleashing everything you've got? Do you want to discover who you really are when you're not limited by your own self-imposed restrictions? Because I'm telling you right now, you're capable of so much more than you think, so much more than you've been led to believe, so much more than you've shown the world so far. There's this massive reservoir of potential inside you that you've barely tapped into because you've been too afraid, too cautious, too concerned with what might go wrong instead of what might go right. And the tragedy is that most people die without ever accessing that potential. They play it safe their whole lives. They listen to that voice of fear. They stay in their comfort zone. And then one day when it's too late, when they're looking back on their life, they realize what they gave up. They realize how much they left on the table. They realize they spent their entire life being a fraction of who they could have been. Don't let that be you. Don't let fear steal your potential. Don't let that voice rob you of your one chance to see what you're really made of. Don't spend your life wondering, what if? Spend it finding out. Spend it pushing limits. Spend it discovering that you're stronger, more capable, more resilient than you ever imagined. You want to know the difference between people who succeed and people who don't. It's not talent. It's not intelligence. It's not circumstances. It's not luck. The difference is that people who succeed have trained their mind to keep going when everything in them wants to quit. They've developed the ability to push through discomfort. They've built mental strength through repetition and consistency. They've learned to act despite fear, to move despite doubt, to persist despite setbacks. And you can develop that too. You're not special, but that's actually good news. Because if they can do it, you can do it. There's no secret. There's no magic formula. There's just the willingness to do what most people aren't willing to do. To suffer through the uncomfortable period where you're changing, to stay consistent when results aren't showing up yet, to keep believing in yourself when no one else does. This is your moment. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when conditions are perfect. This moment right here. This is where everything changes. This is where you stop being who you were and start becoming who you're meant to be. This is where you draw a line in the sand and say, no more. No more excuses. No more waiting. No more letting fear make decisions. No more playing small. No more settling. No more accepting less than you deserve. From this moment forward, you're someone who does hard things. You're someone who shows up. You're someone who keeps their word to themselves. You're someone who faces their fears. You're someone who pushes through discomfort. You're someone who refuses to quit. You're someone who trains their mind instead of being controlled by it. You're someone who wins. Not because it's easy. Not because you feel like it. Not because conditions are perfect. But because you decided. You made a choice about who you are. And you're going to prove it through your actions every single day from now on. Think about what you want. Really think about it. Not what other people want for you. Not what society says you should want. What do you want? What does your ideal life look like? Who do you want to become? What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to be able to say about yourself when you're looking back on your life? Now think about what's stopping you from having that. Strip away all the external excuses, the circumstances, the resources, the timing, what's really stopping you, your mind, your fear, your doubt, your unwillingness to be uncomfortable, your attachment to comfort, your belief that you're not capable. That's it. That's all that's standing between you and everything you want. And you have the power to change all of that right now, today. You can start rewriting the story. You can start reprogramming your mind. You can start taking action despite fear. You can start building the discipline that will change your life. You don't need permission. You don't need perfect circumstances. You don't need to wait for motivation. You just need to decide and then start. Start with one thing, not everything, just one thing that you know you should be doing, but haven't been. Maybe it's waking up earlier. Maybe it's working out. Maybe it's working on your business. Maybe it's having that difficult conversation. Maybe it's setting boundaries. Maybe it's pursuing that dream you've been ignoring. Pick one thing and commit to it for 30 days. Not perfectly, just consistently. Show up for it every single day, no matter what your mind tells you. And watch what happens. Watch how that one act of discipline starts to ripple into other areas of your life. Watch how doing one hard thing makes other hard things easier. Watch how keeping one commitment to yourself makes it easier to keep others. Watch how building mental strength in one area strengthens your mind overall. Watch how becoming someone who does what they say they're going to do changes everything. This is how transformation happens. Not through some massive overnight change, not through some mystical awakening, through small, consistent actions that compound over time, through showing up when you don't feel like it, through doing the work even when no one's watching, through proving to yourself over and over again that you're capable of more than you thought. And here's what most people don't realize until they experience it. The process itself becomes rewarding, not just the results. The actual act of doing hard things, of pushing through resistance, of proving your mind wrong, it starts to feel good. You start to crave that challenge. You start to look forward to opportunities to test yourself. You become addicted to growth instead of comfort. And that's when you become truly unstoppable. Because people who are addicted to growth don't plateau. They don't settle. They don't get complacent. They're always pushing, always evolving, always becoming more. And life rewards that. Opportunities show up, doors open, things that seemed impossible start to feel inevitable. Not because the universe is conspiring to help you, but because you've become the kind of person who makes things happen. You've developed the mindset, the discipline, the resilience, the mental strength that success requires. And now success isn't something you're chasing. It's something you're creating through who you've become. So I'm going to ask you one final question. And I want you to really sit with this. Not just think about it for a second and move on. Really sit with it. Feel it. Let it sink in. Who do you want to be? Not what do you want to have? Not what do you want to do? Who do you want to be? What kind of person do you want to become? When you're alone with yourself, when no one's watching, when there's no one to impress, who do you want to be? Do you want to be someone who lets fear make decisions? Someone who quits when things get hard? Someone who makes excuses? Someone who plays it safe? Someone who settles? Someone who looks back with regret? Is that who you want to be? Or do you want to be someone who faces their fears? Someone who pushes through difficulty? Someone who takes responsibility? Someone who takes risks? Someone who demands more from themselves? Someone who looks back with pride? Who do you want to be? Because here's the thing, you're becoming someone right now. Every choice you make is casting a vote for the type of person you're becoming. Every time you hit snooze, you're voting for the person who doesn't follow through. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you're voting for the person who stays stuck. Every time you let fear win, you're voting for the person who plays small. But every time you do the hard thing, you're voting for the person who rises. Every time you push through discomfort, you're voting for the person who grows. Every time you act despite fear, you're voting for the person who wins. You're not stuck. You're not broken. You're not incapable. You're just voting for the wrong person. But you can change your vote right now. This moment, this decision, this choice, you can start voting for the person you actually want to become. And when you do that consistently, when you align your actions with who you want to be instead of who you've been, something incredible happens. You start to become that person. Not someday, not eventually, right now. With every choice, with every action, with every moment where you choose growth over comfort, you're literally transforming into someone new. The question is no longer whether you can do this. You can. The question is whether you will. Will you do what it takes? Will you face your fears? Will you push through the discomfort? Will you train your mind? Will you become disciplined? Will you refuse to quit? Will you become the person you're capable of being? Because if you will, if you really will, then nothing can stop you. Not your circumstances, not your past, not your fears, not other people, nothing. You become a force of nature, unstoppable, undeniable, inevitable, but it starts now. Not tomorrow, not Monday, not when you feel ready, now. This moment, this is where your new life begins. This is where you stop being controlled by your mind and start controlling it. This is where you stop being your own worst enemy and start being your own greatest weapon. The battle is won or lost in your head. And right now in this moment, you get to decide, will you let your mind win or will you? Choose. Choose to win, because that's what this is really about. Winning, not against other people, not in some competition where there's only one person at the top, but winning the only battle that truly matters, the battle against the version of yourself that wants to stay comfortable, the version that wants to quit, the version that's willing to settle for less than you deserve. You're at war. Right now, this very second. And the enemy isn't out there, it's in here. It's that voice. It's that doubt. It's that fear. And every single day, you either win that battle or you lose it. There's no middle ground. There's no neutral. You're either moving forward or you're moving backward. You're either building the life you want or you're destroying it. You're either becoming stronger or you're becoming weaker. And here's what happens when you start winning, when you start choosing discipline over comfort, when you start acting despite fear, when you start training your mind to work for you instead of against you. You don't just change your own life. You change everything around you. Think about the people who depend on you, your family, your children, your friends, the people who look up to you, even if you don't realize they do. What kind of example are you setting for them when they watch you? What are they learning? Are they learning that it's okay to quit when things get hard? Are they learning that dreams are just fantasies that never come true? Are they learning that you have to settle for whatever life gives you? Or are they learning that you can overcome anything, that you can transform yourself, that you can build something from nothing, that you refuse to be defeated, that you're someone who honors their word, that you're someone who fights for what they want, that you're someone who never gives up because they're watching? Trust me, they're watching. And what you do right now, the choice you make in this moment, it ripples out. It affects everyone connected to you. Your transformation doesn't just change your life. It gives other people permission to change theirs. Your courage inspires their courage. Your discipline influences their discipline. Your refusal to quit shows them that they don't have to quit either. Imagine your children growing up, watching you chase your dreams, watching you face your fears, watching you push through difficulties, watching you become someone who demands more from themselves. What does that teach them about what's possible? What does that teach them about who they can become? You're not just building your legacy, you're shaping theirs. Imagine your friends seeing you transform, seeing you go from stuck to unstoppable, seeing you take control of your life, seeing you achieve things you once thought were impossible. Some of them will be inspired. Some of them will follow your example. Some of them will start their own transformation because you showed them it's possible. You become the catalyst for change in other people's lives just by changing your own. This is what victory looks like. It's not just personal success. It's not just achieving your goals. It's becoming the kind of person who elevates everyone around them. It's being someone who makes the world better just by being in it. It's leaving a mark that lasts long after you're gone. And I want you to think about that for a second. Your legacy, what you leave behind. When you're at the end of your life, looking back, what do you want to see? Do you want to see a life lived in fear? A life where you played it safe? A life where you never found out what you were capable of? A life of regret and what ifs? Or do you want to see a life where you gave everything you had, where you faced your fears head on, where you pushed past every limit, where you discovered strength you didn't know existed, where you became someone who inspired others, where you left the world better than you found it, because that's what's at stake here. Not just your happiness, not just your success, your entire legacy, the story that will be told about you, the impact you have on the world, the lives you touch, the example you set, the person you become. And here's the beautiful truth. You get to decide that right now. Today, you get to decide what your legacy will be. You're writing it with every choice you make. You're creating it with every action you take. You're building it with every moment where you choose who you want to be over who you've been. This is your story, and stories are remembered by how they end. Nobody remembers the middle where everything was comfortable and easy. They remember the part where the hero faced the impossible and conquered it anyway. The part where they were knocked down and got back up. The part where everyone counted them out and they proved everyone wrong. The part where they transformed into something greater than anyone imagined. That's your story. That's the story you're writing right now. And the next chapter, the next page, the next sentence, it starts with the decision you make in this moment. So let me tell you what happens when you make that decision. When you truly commit, when you stop dabbling and start dominating, when you go all in on becoming who you're meant to be, first you'll feel resistance, massive resistance. Your mind will fight harder than it ever has before because it knows this time is different. This time you're serious. This time you're not just going to try for a few days and quit. So it'll throw everything at you. Every fear, every doubt, every excuse. It'll make you feel tired, overwhelmed, anxious, afraid. It'll tell you this is too hard. It'll remind you of every time you failed before. It'll try to convince you that you're not capable, but you'll push through because you know now that it's just noise. You'll feel all of that and you'll do it anyway. And something incredible will happen. The first small win, maybe you complete your first week of waking up early. Maybe you finish your first week of consistent workouts. Maybe you have that difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Maybe you take the first step toward your dream. And that small win, it proves something to you. It proves that you can do this. It proves that your mind was lying. It proves that you're stronger than you thought. And that small win creates momentum. It makes the next choice easier. It makes the next day a little less difficult. It builds confidence. It builds belief. It builds evidence that you're becoming someone different, someone capable, someone who follows through. Then the wins start compounding. Week 2 is easier than week 1. Week 3 is easier than week 2. Not because the work gets easier, but because you get stronger. Your mind adapts. Your discipline grows. Your mental strength builds. What used to feel impossible now feels manageable. What used to feel manageable now feels easy. You start looking for bigger challenges because you've outgrown the small ones. Months pass. You look in the mirror and barely recognize yourself. Not just physically, though that may have changed too, but the look in your eyes, the way you carry yourself, the energy you bring into rooms. You're different. You're someone who's proven to themselves over and over again that they don't quit, that they can overcome, that they're capable of more than they ever imagined. People start noticing. They ask you what changed. They want to know your secret, and you tell them the truth. There is no secret. There's just the willingness to do what most people aren't willing to do, to suffer through the transformation period, to stay consistent when results aren't showing up yet, to keep going when every part of you wants to stop, and then something beautiful happens. You realize you're not just changing your life anymore, you're living it. The life you used to dream about, the person you used to wish you could be. It's not some distant goal anymore. It's your reality. You wake up every day as someone who's in control, someone who's disciplined, someone who's strong, someone who wins. But here's what's even more beautiful. You realize this is just the beginning, because once you've proven to yourself that you can change, that you can overcome, that you can become anything you decide to become, there are no limits anymore. Every goal is achievable. Every dream is possible. Every challenge is an opportunity to prove yourself again. You start thinking bigger, dreaming bigger, acting bigger, because you're not operating from a place of, can I do this anymore? You're operating from a place of, how will I do this? It's not a question of capability. It's a question of strategy. And you figure it out. You always figure it out, because that's who you are now. You're someone who solves problems. You're someone who finds ways. You're someone who makes things happen. And the crazy thing is, this was always available to you. This strength, this potential, this capability, it was always there, waiting for you to claim it. You didn't need to develop some new skill you didn't have. You didn't need to become someone completely different. You just needed to stop letting your mind control you and start controlling it. You just needed to stop listening to the lies and start acting on the truth. You just needed to choose. That's all this ever was, a choice. The choice to suffer the pain of discipline instead of the pain of regret. The choice to face your fears instead of being controlled by them. The choice to become who you're capable of being instead of staying who you are. The choice to win, and I'm telling you right now, you're capable of this. I don't care what your story is. I don't care what you've been through. I don't care how many times you've failed before. I don't care how old you are or how far behind you think you are. None of that matters. The only thing that matters is what you do next. The only thing that matters is the choice you make right now. Because 5 years from now, when you're living the life you always dreamed of, when you've become the person you always knew you could be, when you're inspiring others just by being who you are, you're going to look back on this moment, this exact moment right here, and you're going to remember that this is where it all changed. This is where you stop making excuses. This is where you stop playing small. This is where you stop letting fear win. This is where you decided to become unstoppable. Or 5 years from now, you'll look back on this moment with regret. You'll remember reading these words. You'll remember feeling that spark of possibility. You'll remember thinking, maybe I could do this. And then you'll remember choosing to stay where you were, choosing comfort, choosing fear, choosing to let your mind win. And you'll wonder what your life would look like if you had just taken that first step. Which future do you want? Which version of yourself do you want to be 5 years from now? The one who transformed their life, or the one who's still wishing they had, because you don't get both. You don't get to stay comfortable and achieve your dreams. You don't get to avoid discomfort and become strong. You don't get to play it safe and live fully. You have to choose. And the choice you make right now determines everything. So choose the hard path. Choose the path that requires you to grow. Choose the path that scares you. Choose the path that demands everything you've got. Because that's the path that leads to the life you actually want. That's the path that leads to becoming who you're meant to be. That's the path that leads to victory. And yes, it's going to be hard. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to challenge you in ways you can't even imagine right now. There will be days when you want to quit. Days when you question if it's worth it. Days when you wonder if you're capable. But on those days, you remember why you started. You remember the vision of who you're becoming. You remember that every person who's ever achieved anything great had these same doubts, these same fears, these same struggles, and they pushed through anyway. You pushed through anyway. Because you're not someone who quits anymore. You're not someone who lets fear make decisions. You're not someone who settles. You're someone who fights. You're someone who persists. You're someone who refuses to be defeated. You're someone who wins. And when you win, when you finally achieve what you set out to achieve, when you finally become who you set out to become, you'll realize something profound. The victory isn't just about the achievement. It's about who you had to become to achieve it. The strength you had to build, the fears you had to face, the discipline you had to develop, the person you had to transform into. That's the real victory. That's what you get to keep forever. Nobody can take that away from you. Nobody can take away the strength you've built. Nobody can take away the discipline you've developed. Nobody can take away the person you've become. That's yours forever. And once you have it, once you've proven to yourself that you can do hard things, that you can overcome anything, that you're capable of transformation, you can do it again and again and again. This is why successful people keep achieving new things. It's not because they're naturally gifted or lucky. It's because they've developed the mental strength, the discipline, the resilience that success requires. They've proven to themselves over and over again that they can do difficult things, so new challenges don't scare them anymore. New goals don't seem impossible. They just see it as another opportunity to prove themselves, another opportunity to grow, another opportunity to win. And that can be you. That will be you. If you choose it, if you commit to it, if you refuse to quit until you become that person. So here's what you do next. You close this video, you put down your phone, and you take one action, not 10 actions, not a complete life overhaul, just one action that moves you toward the person you want to become. Maybe it's putting on your workout clothes and doing 10 push-ups. Maybe it's opening your laptop and writing the first sentence of your book. Maybe it's sending that message you've been too scared to send. Maybe it's saying no to something that doesn't serve you. Maybe it's saying yes to something that terrifies you. Just one action, one choice, one moment where you choose who you want to be over who you've been. And then tomorrow, you do it again. And the day after that, and the day after that, not because it's easy, not because you feel like it, but because you're someone who keeps their word to themselves now. You're someone who follows through. You're someone who does what needs to be done. And before you know it, weeks have turned into months. Months have turned into years. And you're not the same person anymore. You've transformed. You've evolved. You've become someone you're proud to be. Someone who inspires others. Someone who makes an impact. Someone who leaves a legacy. Someone who wins. This is your moment. This is your chance. This is your life. And it's waiting for you to claim it. It's waiting for you to step up. It's waiting for you to become who you were always meant to be. The only question is, are you ready? Are you ready to stop making excuses? Are you ready to face your fears? Are you ready to train your mind? Are you ready to do the work? Are you ready to become disciplined? Are you ready to become strong? Are you ready to refuse to quit? Are you ready to win? Because if you are, if you truly are, then nothing in this world can stop you. Not your circumstances, not your past, not your fears, not your doubts, not other people, nothing. You become an unstoppable force, a person of destiny, someone who shapes their own future instead of being shaped by it. The world needs you. The world needs your strength. The world needs your courage. The world needs your example. The world needs you to become who you're capable of being. Not for you, not for your family, for everyone whose life you'll touch, for everyone who needs to see that transformation is possible, for everyone who needs to know that they can overcome, for everyone who's waiting for someone to show them the way. That someone is you. This is your calling. This is your purpose. This is why you're here. Not to play small, not to hide, not to settle, but to rise, to become, to inspire, to win. So stop waiting, stop preparing, stop planning, start doing, start now, start today, start this second, Take that first step. Make that first choice. Do that first hard thing. And then keep going. Keep pushing. Keep fighting. Keep winning. Because your future self is watching. The person you're becoming is waiting. Your legacy is being written. Your impact is being formed. Your destiny is being shaped. And it all depends on what you do next. So what's it going to be? Are you going to let your mind win? Or are you going to take control and become unstoppable? The answer is already inside you. You know what you need to do. You know who you need to become. You know what's required. The only question is whether you'll do it. And I already know you will. Because you wouldn't have made it this far if you weren't ready. You wouldn't have listened to all of this if you didn't want to change. You wouldn't have felt that pull, that restlessness, that knowing that you're meant for more if you weren't ready to become more. So this is it. This is where your transformation begins. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you're ready, right now, this moment, this choice, this action. Train your mind, take control, become unstoppable, win. Your time is now.